And this is Ken Kraetzer in New York City at the Navy League breakfast this morning, and have a chance to talk with Captain John Mustin, who is Enterprise Director for the new Littoral Combat Ships. And Captain Mustin, you gave a fascinating talk today about the new Littoral Combat Ships. There's 4 out in service today, about another 50 on their way. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about the capabilities of these new ships.
Happy to, Ken. Thanks very much for having me. Littoral Combat Ship is a fascinating platform. It specializes in 3 specific missions: mine countermeasures, surface warfare, and anti-submarine warfare. But it brings an adaptive capability to the waterfront that we haven't seen with our larger platforms. So, for instance, when we talk about DDGs, guided missile destroyers, and guided missile cruisers, that's a capital ship, very expensive and great capability. What we're looking for in a Littoral Combat Ship is the ability to get in close, to get into ports where those other ships are not able to reach because our draft is significantly shallower, and to do things very quickly. So this is a high-speed vessel. It's got innovative training systems, innovative sensor systems, remotely operated systems incorporated into how they do business. So what you really see here is a revolution both in technology and in process that gives our Navy a new capability.
Absolutely, and one of the things that's very unique about this ship and its development is that you have 2 versions of the LCS. One is a standard hull, and the other is a tri hull. Tell us a little bit about those 2 different versions of the ship.
Great point. So a specific set of requirements was provided to multiple vendors, and they came back with options for the Navy to select from one of several. We narrowed down on 2, one of which was the trimaran, as you alluded to, and one is a single hull or fairly traditional-looking ship. The initial intent had been to do essentially a bake-off and look at the pros and cons of each relative to cost and performance and operational capability. And ultimately, where we've decided now is that both have unique capabilities, and frankly, it's in the nation's best interest to have both. So currently, we're approved to build 32. We've got 4 on the waterfront today, as you mentioned, 2 of each of the different types of hulls. And over the next several years, you're going to see them continue to grow into the San Diego base and to Mayport on the East Coast. And from that point, we'll determine where it takes us, but for the time being, we're going to use each for the fullest of their capability.
And you mentioned in your talk today that the Littoral Combat Ships will have very small crews, only about 50 sailors, 8 officers, and then you're going to do most of the training for these personnel on shore before they get to the ship, so they're ready to go on the first day on arrival. Tell us a bit about that. That's a bit of a change for what we see in the Navy.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that was built into the program from the earliest days of its concept was we wanted to apply what's working well in other communities in the Navy. And so on the training pipeline, we're really taking a page from the aviation playbook, which is, pilots report to a squadron ready to fly their aircraft. And in the same way, we're training our sailors and officers en route now so that they show up to their platform ready to stand watch and ready to fight the ship. So rather than dedicating a significant amount of their time and their cycles when they're on the ship to getting trained, now we've said we want them to show up ready to get underway and to fully employ this awesome capability in this vessel. So that's just one. I mean, the training pipeline is one. The qualification pipeline assures that we're going to get great folks who, again, are full up rounds when they arrive. And then the certification of the ship is also kind of a new approach as well, where the LCS squadron and the afloat training group are responsible for certifying the crew for deployment. And that's a little bit different than where previously we had internal training teams that would certify crews. So, it's not to say that we're still not going to have inspections and other requirements for the LCS, but when you look at a 50-person crew altogether, you want them to focus on what they do best. And so now we've outsourced the certification of the crew and the training of the individuals.
And you mentioned on the Littoral Combat Ships are going to be modularized by the missions that they're expected to go out for: anti-mine, anti-submarine, anti-piracy even. Tell us a bit about the advantage of being modular in the mission package, as you call it.
Well, the key here is we're looking for adaptive flexibility. So we know it's very unlikely that we're going to find ourselves in a threat environment where we don't know a little something about what's going on there. So if we know that we're entering into an environment that is characterized by a strong surface threat, then the idea is that you tailor the ship to not only defend itself, but to perform in that environment. So we put sensors, we put weapons, we put new kinds of platforms that enable us to fulfill surface requirements. if, for instance, we're going into an environment that is characterized by diesel submarines or even nuclear submarines, then we tailor the ship so that it's got the weapons, sensors, training, and personnel to perform in the sub environment. Now, why is that valuable to us? Well, the reality is to build a single ship that is multi-mission functional in all of those is very expensive, and we couldn't do it with a small, adaptive, flexible ship like we've got today. And ultimately, what we'd be doing is recreating the destroyer that we've already got. So in this sense, we like the idea of a sea frame that is tailorable, and you can do that relatively quickly, so that gives us more flexibility for global needs.
And Captain John Mustin, just tell us a little bit about your career. I know you started at the U.S. Naval Academy.
I did indeed. I was a class of 90 graduate there. Went to Surface Warfare Officer School. I served on the USS Vincennes as the navigator and the CIC officer, and then went to postgraduate school in Monterey, and then I was the pre-commissioning operations officer on the USS Donald Cook, which was a Arleigh Burke destroyer. At that point, I transitioned in the reserves, and since then I've served on a number of flag staffs and had command of an inshore boat unit, which was a great career highlight of mine. I've served in the Maritime Expeditionary Surface, or Maritime Expeditionary Security Force, and then in the Pentagon at the OPNAV N3, N5 staff, and most currently at the U.S. Fleet Forces Command.
And Captain John Mustin, thank you for your service to our country and all you're doing to get the Littoral Combat Ships off to a good start in our Navy, and we wish you well.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here. Thanks so much, Ken. I really appreciate it.
This is Ken Kraetzer at the Navy League in New York City for Sons of the American Legion Radio.